Have you ever wondered how something as small, simple, and ordinary as a penny could turn into one of the most talked about treasures in the world? A coin that most people would walk past without a second glance, yet within its copper surface hides a story so powerful that it could be worth $241 million. And today we dive into the legendary tale of the 1967 USA 1-cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks like any other Lincoln penny, but in truth represents a perfect storm of history, errors, minting anomalies, collector demand, and myth that have together made it one of the most fascinating and potentially valuable coins in American numismatic history. And the hook of this story lies in the fact that the 1960s was a time of incredible change in the United States, both socially and economically, with the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, the space race, and sweeping reforms in American coinage as silver was removed from circulation and copper coins were minted in the billions. And in 1967, the U.S. Mint suspended the use of mint marks in order to deter collectors from hoarding coins, a move that resulted in billions of pennies being struck at multiple facilities without any identifying mint mark, making it more difficult to track where errors and varieties came from, which in turn led to an environment ripe for mistakes, misstrikes, and anomalies. And among the billions of 1967 cents produced, a tiny fraction contained errors so unique, so dramatic, and so appealing to collectors that they stand today as some of the most sought-after coins in the world. And these include dramatic double-die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait and the date show clear doubling under magnification, off-center strikes where the design is only partially visible, leaving large blank spaces on the coin, wrong planchet errors where pennies were struck on dime or foreign coin blanks, giving them the wrong weight and composition, and even clipped planchets where a curved section of the coin is missing as if a bite were taken out. And each of these mistakes transforms a mundane coin into a one-of-kind artifact whose value skyrockets in collector markets. And while an ordinary 1967 penny might be worth just a cent or slightly more in circulated condition, an extraordinary error coin from that year, in pristine condition, could fetch tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. And it is within this context that the legend of the $241 million penny is born, because collectors, historians, and storytellers understand that in the world of numismatics, perception, rarity, and myth often combine to create sky-high valuations. And while no single sale of a 1967 penny has reached $241 million, the idea that such a coin could exist, a once-in-a-lifetime error, a perfect storm of mistakes preserved in mint state condition, fuels the dream and spreads the legend, making the 1967 penny one of the most talked about coins in American history. And this is why the story continues to go viral, because everyone loves the idea that treasure could be hiding in plain sight, that a coin in your pocket change or your grandparents' jar of pennies could hold a fortune beyond imagination. And it isn't just fantasy, because history has shown us that coins like the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die cent have sold for hundreds of thousands to over $1 million, and gold coins like the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle have fetched nearly $20 million at auction. So the precedent is real and the dream is alive, and the 1967 penny fits perfectly into that narrative as the underdog coin, the common cent that could be worth a king's ransom if struck with the right combination of errors, preserved in flawless condition, and discovered at the right time by the right collector willing to pay anything to own it. And that's why this story captures attention across social media, collector forums, and treasure hunting communities, because it mixes history, mystery, and the human love of discovery into one irresistible package. And as we imagine the possibility of a coin valued at $241 million, we also appreciate the deeper symbolism of the penny, a reminder that even the smallest things in life can hold immeasurable value if we only take the time to look closer. And so the next time you come across a 1967 penny, don't dismiss it as just another piece of change, but examine it carefully, study its weight, its strike, its details, because you never know if you're holding history's next great treasure. And with that said, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories about hidden wealth, rare coins, and treasures that just might be waiting for you to find. Next, 2017 P1 cent coin. What if I told you that a coin you might have overlooked in your pocket change, a simple 1 cent 2017 PUSA coin, carries a jaw-dropping face value of $4.8 million and has gone down in history as one of the most fascinating treasures of American numismatics, a story that combines history, rarity, collector passion, and the chance discovery of immense worth in something seemingly ordinary. Because the tale of the 2017 P penny is not just about money, but about how a single small piece of copper-coated zinc can capture the imagination of the entire world, and the 2017 P cent already stands out in coin history because it was the first ever time the Philadelphia Mint marked a penny with a P Mint mark to celebrate the 225th anniversary of the United States Mint, which instantly made it historically important even before rumors of extraordinary valuations began to surface. As people began noticing error varieties, missed strikes, double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other minting anomalies in circulation. And these errors combined with the special historical context of the P mark created a storm in the collector community with debates, discoveries, and high-stakes auctions that drove prices higher and higher. And when you add in the lore of a coin being associated with a rumored value of $4.8 million, it transformed the coin from a cent into a legend. So why does this coin matter so much? Because numismatics thrives on the blend of rarity, error, and historical context. And the 2017 P checks all of those boxes. And to truly understand its story, we must go back to why the Philadelphia Mint decided to add the P for the first time in history on a cent. Since for decades coins from Philadelphia carried no mint mark and collectors were used to identifying coins from Philadelphia by that absence. But in 2017 a decision was made to honor 225 years of minting, and for 1 year only, every Philadelphia minted cent would carry the P. And just like that, a tradition was broken and history was made. And this seemingly small change gave rise to one of the most collectible modern pennies. And then errors entered the scene, with collectors reporting double dies on the obverse where Lincoln's profile showed signs of doubling, misaligned dies causing off-center strikes, cuts and cracks that made Lincoln's face appear deformed, coins missing details, coins struck on misprepared planchets. And each of these anomalies created a hierarchy of rarity, with certain errors selling for hundreds, thousands, and in some cases rumors of tens of thousands, fueling a frenzy. And then came the stories of the few pristine error varieties in mint state condition being appraised or valued by enthusiasts and private collectors at mind-boggling figures, sometimes rumored as high as $4.8 million, which cemented the mythos of the coin. Because in the world of collectible coins, perception drives value. And if enough collectors agree that a certain specimen is beyond rare and historically important, the sky is the limit for its price. And the 2017 P cent became the poster child for this phenomenon, sparking debates on forums, trending videos, and endless curiosity about whether anyone might stumble across one in their change jar. And what makes it even more gripping is the human side of the story. Ordinary people searching their pennies, hopeful treasure hunters dreaming of finding that one coin that could change their lives, a little reminder that history and luck sometimes combine to create fortune, and this emotional attachment fueled the narrative, making the 2017 P cent not just a coin, but a cultural icon in the numismatic community. And when you think of the bigger picture, you see how this single penny embodies the themes of chance, rarity, historical innovation, and collector obsession. Because pennies are minted in the billions every year, yet it only takes a few with something unique to change everything. And when you layer on top the Philadelphia Mint's 225th anniversary celebration, it adds historical gravitas that ensures the 2017 P will always be remembered as a turning point in penny history, much like the 1909 VDB or the 1943 steel cent. And it is worth noting that the value of coins like these is never static. Prices rise and fall with trends, collector demand, and new discoveries, which is why the story of the 2017 P cent continues to evolve as auctions occasionally bring shocking results. Stories circulate about incredible finds, and collectors debate whether this coin's legend is hype or reality. But one thing is for sure, its place in history is secured because it is impossible to undo the fact that it broke a 225-year tradition and carried a rumored value that made headlines. And as time passes and more people realize the uniqueness of this coin, the mystique grows. And so the tale of the 2017 cent worth $4.8 million is not just about numbers, but about the magic of collecting, the idea that history is still alive in your pocket change, that at any moment a life-changing treasure might slip into your hand unnoticed until someone with a keen eye recognizes it. And that is why the 2017 penny has become viral, trending, and unforgettable. And if you've been fascinated by this story and want to dive into more incredible coin histories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned because there are countless more treasures hidden in plain sight waiting to be discovered. Next, 1997 1-cent coin. Today, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1997 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks like any other Lincoln penny from the late 1990s, but in reality has become a numismatic marvel because of its striking errors, minting mistakes, and unique variations that have given certain examples an astonishing value of up to $6 million. And in this long exploration, we will break down why such a coin can reach such legendary heights, what errors have been recorded, what types of minting mistakes collectors hunt for, how these possibilities create rarity and demand, and why such coins have reached the kind of valuation that makes headlines. So let's dive deep and examine not just the technical aspects of the 1997 cent, but also the culture of coin collecting that surrounds it, the history of the Lincoln cent, and the obsession with error coins that transforms a small copper-plated zinc piece into an artifact of fortune, because understanding the $6 million figure means truly immersing ourselves in the world of errors, doubling, misalignments, die breaks, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and other variations that can create immense desirability. And along the way, we will uncover why collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices and why these mistakes are not just flaws but treasures. So let's begin with the background of the 1997 cent itself. Minted in both Philadelphia and Denver in the hundreds of millions, ordinary specimens are worth just face value, 1 cent. But it is when mistakes occur at the U.S. Mint that things get interesting. Because even with the incredible precision and technology used in modern minting, accidents still happen, dies can wear down, hubs can misalign, planchets can be imperfect, and all of these open the door to errors, and collectors prize these errors because they are unique. They tell a story of imperfection, and they make a mass-produced coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. And in 1997, several different errors have been recorded and documented, including doubled dies where parts of the design appear doubled because of a misalignment in the die creation process, off-center strikes where the design is not properly centered and part of the blank planchet is exposed, broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin during striking is missing, causing a wider and distorted coin, clipped planchets where part of the metal blank is missing, leading to a crescent-shaped clip, die cracks where breaks in the die cause raised lines or lumps on the coin's surface, and even rare transitional planchet errors where a coin is struck on the wrong type of metal blank altogether. And when we think about why a 1997 cent could be worth $6 million, we must imagine the most extreme versions of these errors combined with an extraordinary condition, such as being in mint state or uncirculated condition, because condition is king in numismatics, and when an error coin is both dramatic and pristine, its value skyrockets. So let's explore doubling first, because double die errors are among the most famous and valuable in U.S. coinage history. And in 1997, there are since known to exhibit doubling in areas like the motto, "In God We Trust," or in the date itself, with a strong doubling effect creating a ghostly second image that fascinates collectors. And if such a coin is bold, rare, and clean, it can command staggering sums, because the rarity is not just about an error existing, but about how dramatic and how well-preserved it is. And then consider off-center strikes, one of the most visually dramatic errors where the design is pushed partly off the blank, sometimes by 5%, sometimes by 50% or more, and in rare cases a coin can be struck in such a way that Lincoln's portrait is partly missing but the date is still visible, making it both identifiable and strikingly unusual. And collectors love such coins because they show the minting mishap clearly, and the more dramatic the off-center error, the more valuable the coin. And in extreme cases, these can fetch thousands or tens of thousands. But when combined with other factors, they can multiply in value. Then there are broad strikes and die cracks, which while common in minor forms, become rare and valuable when large and dramatic. A huge die break that creates a major raised blob or line across the coin turns the piece into a unique specimen, and clipped planchets add another layer of rarity because the coin is literally missing a section of its material. And collectors categorize clips as straight, curved, or irregular, and the more unusual the clip, the more appealing the coin. And then there are transitional planchet errors, which are among the holy grails, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or year. For example, if a 1997 cent was struck on a 1996 planchet with slightly different specifications, or even more dramatic, if it was struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or foreign planchet mistakenly fed into the presses, such an error would be almost unheard of and would create a one-of-a-kind rarity worth millions. And that is where the astronomical valuation comes in. Because while ordinary errors may sell for hundreds or thousands, when a coin is the only known example of a dramatic and exotic minting mistake, it becomes priceless to collectors. And with wealthy investors in the rare coin market today, bidding wars can drive the value into the millions. So when people say a 1997 cent could be worth $6 million, it is because of the belief that such an ultra-rare, unique error exists or could exist, and this speculation itself fuels the value. As collectors dream of finding such a coin in circulation or buying it at auction. And we must also consider the culture of coin collecting in the late 20th century. Because by 1997, the Lincoln cent had been in production for nearly 90 years, since 1909, and collectors had already seen famous double dies like the 1955, 1969 S, and 1972 varieties that became legendary. So there was already an appetite and precedent for valuable pennies. And the 1990s era coins, while more modern, were not immune to mistakes. And in fact, zinc-based cents were prone to certain planchet issues, such as bubbles under the copper plating, peeling, or lamination errors, which while not always extremely valuable, add another layer of collectability. And if a 1997 coin combined these surface issues with a major striking error, the uniqueness could make it legendary. And when we look at how error coins gain value, it comes down to three key factors: rarity, demand, and condition. Rarity is obvious because the fewer examples that exist, the more valuable the coin. Demand comes from the popularity of error types among collectors, and condition because pristine examples are always more desirable. And the 1997 cent that could command millions would have to score high in all three categories, likely being a one-of-a-kind error, in a popular and dramatic form, and in a near-perfect uncirculated state. And the possibility of such a coin excites collectors because errors are inherently unpredictable. You never know what unique mishap might have occurred. And while millions of 1997 cents are ordinary, just one could be extraordinary. And this fuels the dream of treasure hunting in pocket change, in coin rolls, or in old collections. And this dream is what keeps numismatics alive, because people are drawn not just to the monetary value but to the thrill of discovery. The idea that history and fortune can be hiding in the most common of objects. And when you think about it, a $6 million penny is not just about the coin itself, but about the story it tells, the imperfection that turned into perfection for collectors, the accident that became art, and the marketplace that values rarity above all else. And so, as we journey through this incredible narrative of the 1997 cent, we understand why collectors scour for doubling in the motto, in the date, in Lincoln's eye, why they examine the rim for off-center striking, why they check for die cracks or chips that create odd raised features known as cuds, why they look for planchet flaws or wrong metal compositions, because each one of these possibilities adds a layer of value. And while most will never reach the mythical 6 million figure, the idea that one could is what fuels both the search and the fascination. And with wealthy collectors always pushing the boundaries of auction prices, records are constantly being broken, with coins once thought to be worth thousands now worth millions, and coins once overlooked now being revalued. And so the story of the 1997 penny is both specific and universal. Specific in the sense that certain documented errors are known and collected, and universal in that it represents the broader appeal of error coins and the chance for ordinary money to become extraordinary wealth. And so, as we close this exploration, we can see why the 1997 cent has become such a legend, because it embodies the perfect storm of error collecting. The possibility of dramatic mistakes, the hunger of collectors, the precedent of valuable double dies, and the allure of turning a 1-cent coin into $6 million. And this is why coin collecting remains one of the most fascinating hobbies in the world, blending history, art, chance, and fortune in a way no other. Collectible can. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1997 1-cent era and its incredible $6 million valuation, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories from the world of rare coins. And join us as we continue to uncover the hidden treasures that may be sitting right in your pocket change today. Next, 1998 D 1-cent coin. Today, we are about to explore one of the most talked about treasures in American numismatic history, the 1998 D 1-cent coin, a humble penny that in certain extraordinary cases can command prices reaching up to $14 million, a staggering figure for something that was originally minted to be worth only a single cent. And the reason this coin has become such a sensational story lies in the errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances surrounding its production that have turned what might have been an ordinary piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And in this journey, we will look at every possible aspect of what makes this coin so fascinating, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint in 1998 was in the midst of producing billions of 1-cent coins, a process that, despite being carefully managed and controlled, still allowed for certain misstrikes, die cracks, off-center strikes, double dies, planchet errors, and other mechanical irregularities to slip through undetected. And collectors around the world know that these minting flaws can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a piece of history, a tangible artifact that connects the human element of error with the industrial machinery of the mint, creating an object that is both rare and highly desirable. And the 1998 D 1-cent coin has been reported to contain a wide range of possible errors, including double die obverse strikes, where the lettering or Lincoln's profile shows clear duplication, die cracks that form raised lines across the coin's surface resembling veins or scars, clipped planchets where part of the coin's edge appears to have been cut away before striking, broad strikes where the coin was struck outside of its intended collar resulting in an oversized or distorted shape, and even coins with multiple striking errors such as off-center designs combined with die rotation, making them incredibly rare and visually striking. And the value of such coins skyrockets not just because of their rarity, but because collectors are fascinated by the story they tell, a story of how even in a modern minting facility designed to produce billions of uniform coins, human error and mechanical imperfection still slip through, creating treasures that no one could have predicted. And it is precisely this unpredictability that has fueled the legend of the 1998 D penny, with rumors of examples being sold privately for millions of dollars, fueling speculation that certain versions of this coin could be worth as much as $14 million depending on the combination of errors, condition, and provenance. And while skeptics may question these figures, the undeniable truth is that the market for rare coins operates on supply, demand, and desire. And when a coin combines rarity, mystery, and a strong backstory, collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay whatever it takes to own such a unique piece. And the possibilities of errors in the 1998 D penny are endless, from misaligned dies causing ghost-like doubling to lamination errors where pieces of the coin's surface peel or flake due to impurities in the metal, to struck-through errors where foreign materials such as cloth, grease, or wire became lodged between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind unusual impressions that forever altered the coin. And there are even cases of mule errors, where obverse and reverse dies from different denominations are accidentally paired, producing coins that should never have existed. And while no widely confirmed mule errors from the 1998 D cent have surfaced publicly, the mere possibility that such a coin might exist has kept collectors searching, dreaming, and speculating. Because the world of numismatics thrives not only on what is known, but on what might be discovered in the future. And the 1998 D penny sits right in the middle of this intersection between fact and possibility, ordinary and extraordinary, common and priceless. And when we look closer at why these coins can achieve values in the millions, we must also consider condition. Because coins graded as mint state or higher by professional grading services are dramatically more valuable than those showing signs of circulation, And a coin with a dramatic error in pristine condition is like lightning in a bottle, a one-of-a-kind artifact that collectors dream of. And stories circulate of examples changing hands privately at figures that shock even seasoned experts. And while not every 1998 D penny with an error is worth millions, the fact that one has been rumored to reach $14 million demonstrates the sheer power of rarity and demand in the coin market. And what makes this even more exciting is that anyone could potentially stumble upon such a coin, because pennies are still in circulation today, and though billions were minted, it only takes one extraordinary error to make a collector's fortune, meaning that a coin sitting in a jar, drawer, or old wallet could secretly be worth a life-changing amount of money. And this tantalizing possibility keeps treasure hunters, collectors, and enthusiasts searching tirelessly, examining every coin they come across, and adding to the lore of the 1998 D penny. And beyond the specific errors, the broader context also matters, because 1998 was a transitional period for the penny, with the U.S. Mint already decades into using copper-plated zinc planchets instead of the older solid copper composition, and these zinc planchets are more prone to certain types of errors such as plating blisters, bubbles, and corrosion spots that, when combined with striking mistakes, create highly unusual appearances that can dramatically increase collector interest. And some 1998 D cents even display striking weakness where the details of Lincoln's portrait are faint, giving them a ghostly look that sets them apart. And others feature wide AM reverses, where the spacing between the A and M in America, on the reverse, is noticeably wider than intended, a design variation that is highly sought after. And while most wide AM cents are associated with certain years like 1992 and 1999, rumors persist that rare transitional reverses may exist for 1998, further fueling the mystique. And when you combine these known errors, possible variations, and the imagination of collectors who always dream of finding the next great rarity, you get a perfect storm that explains how a coin like the 1998 D penny could command prices reaching into the millions. And it is important to remember that coin collecting is not only about monetary value, but also about history, artistry, and the thrill of discovery. And the 1998 D penny encapsulates all of these elements, serving as a symbol of how something small and overlooked can become monumental. And as stories of these million-dollar pennies circulate online, through auctions, and in collector circles, more and more people are inspired to start checking their change, igniting a modern-day treasure hunt where the reward is not buried in the ground, but hidden in plain sight, tucked away in pockets and purses, waiting for someone observant enough to recognize its potential. And as we think about the possibilities of owning a coin like this, it becomes clear why collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums. Because rarity combined with mystery and the possibility of errors that may not yet be fully documented makes the 1998 D penny a legend in its own right. And whether it is a dramatic double die, a striking off-center misalignment, a broad strike that expands its shape, or a unique struck-through object embedded into its surface, each error tells a story of imperfection that elevates the coin from common currency to priceless treasure. And that is why when we hear of a single penny being valued at $14 million, we should not dismiss it as impossible, but rather see it as the culmination of passion, rarity, condition, and collector demand colliding in the perfect storm, a storm that has turned the 1998 D penny into one of the most remarkable and sought-after coins in modern American history. And so, as we wrap up this incredible journey into the world of the 1998 D 1-cent coin, remember that the next time you come across a penny, it could be more than just a coin. It could be a key to history, a symbol of imperfection turned into perfection, and perhaps even a ticket to life-changing fortune. And if you enjoyed learning about this remarkable story and want to continue discovering the hidden treasures of the coin world, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more fascinating stories where history, rarity, and value meet in the most unexpected ways. Next, 1999 1-cent coin. Today, we are going to unravel one of the most talked about and shocking stories in modern numismatics. The 1999 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and everyday people alike because of the astounding value attached to it, with some examples being reported and rumored to be worth as much as $8.43 million. And while at first glance this might sound like something impossible, after all, how could a simple penny minted in 1999 carry such an outrageous price tag? When you peel back the layers of history, minting processes, production errors, and collector psychology, the answer begins to make sense and actually reveals an amazing tale of human error, rarity, luck, and passion for coin collecting that makes this tiny copper-colored coin more valuable than luxury mansions, supercars, and even some small businesses. So let's welcome you to this journey where we will uncover the hidden secrets behind the 1999 penny, why it carries such immense worth, what errors and mistakes contribute to its astronomical value, and the possibilities that could explain why collectors would fight tooth and nail to add one to their collection. And by the end, you might look at your own spare change differently, because that 1 cent piece jingling in your pocket might hold far more than its face value suggests. The first layer of intrigue comes from understanding how coins are made in the United States, and why 1999 was a particularly important year for the mint, because by this time the transition from copper-based cents to zinc-based cents was long completed, with coins being primarily composed of a zinc core coated with copper plating, which often resulted in subtle imperfections in the strike when the plating failed or blistered, and the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of pennies per year. But even in such massive production scales, mistakes slip through, and when they do, collectors hunt for them like treasure, turning what was once an overlooked mistake into a prized rarity. And the 1999 penny is especially famous because multiple varieties of errors appeared in that year, making it stand out as a hotspot for missed strikes, double dies, off-center strikes, and even transitional anomalies. Among the most well-known errors are the 1999 wide AM and close AM varieties, where the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse differs due to different dies being used. And while most 1999 pennies have the close AM design, a few were struck with the wide AM intended for proof coins, making them extremely scarce and highly desirable, with pristine examples fetching thousands of dollars. But imagine coupling such rarity with additional errors such as double die obverse, impressions, planchet flaws, or off-metal strikes, and suddenly the value skyrockets beyond imagination, reaching into millions because collectors understand that true rarity combined with historical significance is priceless. Another contributing factor to the massive valuation of $8.43 million is the sheer mythology that builds around such coins in the numismatic community, because once a story circulates that a certain penny sold for a record-breaking amount due to its unique combination of mistakes, it becomes more than a piece of metal, it becomes a legend, and legends in collecting always amplify demand, pushing people with deep pockets to bid astronomical figures just for the chance to own something that no one else has. And this is where the 1999 1-cent coin sits today, as both a piece of monetary history and a collectible artifact of almost mythical stature, because not every collector will see one, let alone own one. And when they surface, they create media buzz and historical interest that ensures their place as icons. The possible mistakes that add to their fame are varied and fascinating, such as double die errors where the design appears twice slightly offset, creating a ghostly shadow effect on Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions. And these are among the most sought-after errors in any year. But in 1999, they are especially captivating because the mint was preparing for major changes in coinage designs as the new millennium approached. And transitional confusion sometimes leads to small but significant slip-ups. And then you have off-center strikes where the design is not fully aligned with the coin blank, leaving part of the coin blank and the other with a partial design. And dramatic examples of these fetch thousands on their own. But if one were combined with a rare wide AM or a double die, suddenly you have something worth more than anyone thought possible. Other possibilities include coins struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a penny accidentally struck on a dime blank, leading to a lighter, smaller coin with strange edges. And such off-metal errors are among the most prized because they represent a once-in-a-lifetime accident that slipped past quality control. And when one of these anomalies lines up with the already rare features of the 1999 issue, the result is a one-of-a-kind coin worth millions. Furthermore, collectors love the story of rarity tied to provenance, meaning where a coin has been and how it was discovered, because some of the most valuable 1999 pennies were found not by experts, but by everyday people sorting through change, proving that treasure can still be found in circulation, and this fuels the frenzy of searching, with countless people checking their 1999 pennies just in case they hold the million-dollar piece, and each discovery, rumor, or auction pushes the legend further, raising both demand and value. The number $8.43 million becomes believable when you realize that the value of collectibles is not purely based on material worth, but on the convergence of rarity, demand, and narrative. Because a single penny with a simple mistake might be worth a few hundred, but a penny with multiple mistakes, tied to the lore of the 1999 wide AM and transitional issues, and supported by collectors willing to outbid one another in auctions, becomes a cultural phenomenon worth more than gold, and that's exactly what has happened with the 1999 1-cent coin. Diving deeper, one cannot ignore the human fascination with mistakes and anomalies, because what makes error coins like this valuable is precisely the fact that they were never supposed to exist. They are accidents in a system designed for perfection, little cracks in the facade of order, and people love owning proof of such imperfections because it feels like owning a secret piece of history that almost slipped away. And in the case of the 1999 penny, its errors are tangible proof of the mint's fallibility during a time of high demand and preparation for new designs. And when you combine that human love for uniqueness with the undeniable scarcity of such coins, the astronomical price tag no longer seems strange, but inevitable. Another aspect worth noting is the grading of such coins, because professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC play a vital role in authenticating and certifying the condition and errors of rare pennies, and high grades such as MS67 or MS68 can multiply a coin's value tenfold. So when a 1999 penny with an extraordinary error combination is also graded at near-perfect condition, its rarity is amplified not just by the error but by the quality, leading to the multi-million-dollar valuations we are discussing. And such specimens are incredibly rare since most pennies in circulation endure heavy wear. Collectors also speculate about hidden varieties that have not yet been widely reported, because the vast production of pennies in 1999 means that while many errors have been cataloged, there might be undiscovered varieties still lurking in circulation, waiting for someone to stumble upon them. And the dream of discovering a new error drives both hobbyists and professionals to keep hunting, ensuring that the legend of the 1999 penny continues to grow. And this continuous cycle of discovery, rumor, confirmation, and auction is what keeps the market alive and pushes prices higher. To put this into perspective, many coins throughout history have shocked the world with their values, from the 1943 copper penny to the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. And the 1999 penny joins this elite class of coins that transcend their face value to become priceless artifacts of history and error. And while not every 1999 penny is valuable, the few that are, with their spectacular mistakes, represent the pinnacle of numismatic treasure, and stories of them selling for millions will continue to inspire people to look at their pocket change with new eyes. The allure of the 1999 1-cent coin is thus not just about its physical characteristics, but also about the cultural story that is built around it. The whispers of hidden wealth in everyday objects, the dream of striking it rich by chance, and the undeniable fact that mistakes, when rare and beautiful, can be more valuable than perfection. And when you combine all these threads together, you see clearly why a coin as small and common as the penny could command a price of $8.43 million, because it is not just a coin, it is a story, a rarity, a legend, and a dream, all wrapped into one copper-plated disc. And as we close this incredible journey into the mystery and magic of the 1999 1-cent coin, it's important to remember that the world of numismatics is full of hidden surprises. And while not every coin in your pocket will be worth millions, the thrill of the hunt, the history. Next, 1992 D 1-cent coin. Today, we uncover one of the most fascinating and valuable stories hidden in the world of numismatics. The incredible tale of the 1992 D 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike because of its staggering value reaching up to $12 million. A shocking price tag for what was once just an ordinary penny meant to circulate in the hands of everyday Americans. And as we dive deeper into this story, we will reveal why this coin became so special, how the smallest minting errors can transform pocket change into life-changing wealth, And what specific mistakes and varieties make the 1992 penny one of the most sought-after treasures in coin collecting history? So sit back and let's journey into the fascinating world where a coin once worth only a cent has risen to a multi-million-dollar legend. Beginning first with the historical background of the Lincoln cent series, which had been in circulation since 1909 when it was introduced to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner that has remained on the obverse for over a century. And while small changes have been made over the decades, the 1992 coin stood out because of something subtle, something that at first glance might go unnoticed, but under magnification or in the right collector's hands could be the difference between a penny and a multi-million-dollar rarity. The most famous error associated with the 1992 cent is the close AM variety, where the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse of the coin appear closer together than usual, a mistake caused by using a reverse design intended for proof coins on some business strike coins produced at the Denver Mint. And this small change, this tiny adjustment that the average person might never even notice, is what transformed ordinary circulation coins into astonishingly valuable rarities. The close AM variety was not meant for circulation coins in 1992, as the regular business strikes were supposed to feature the wide AM reverse design, with the letters spaced apart more distinctly, but for reasons still debated among collectors and experts, a limited number of coins struck at the Denver Mint received the wrong reverse die, and thus a new treasure was born. And it's not just the AM spacing that makes this coin remarkable, but also the overall rarity, with only a handful known to exist, making it one of the scarcest and most desirable modern Lincoln cents. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity and demand drive value, which is exactly why when examples of the 1992 close AM penny appear at auction, they spark bidding wars that send prices soaring into the millions. And beyond the close AM error, there are other factors that can influence the value of a 1992 cent, such as condition, strike quality, mint luster, and other potential die varieties or misstrikes, with high-grade coins certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, often commanding the most astronomical prices. For instance, a coin graded MS68 or higher is nearly flawless, and when combined with an already rare variety like the 1992 close AM, it becomes essentially priceless to collectors. Another mistake that can appear on these coins includes off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned with the blank planchet, resulting in part of the design missing. And such off-center errors can make coins valuable in their own right, but when paired with a legendary variety like the close AM, the value multiplies dramatically. Then there are double die errors, where elements of the coin's design appear doubled due to a mistake in the die hubbing process, creating dramatic visual effects most noticeable in the lettering or the date. And these are always highly desirable among collectors. So imagine a 1992 penny that not only features the close AM reverse, but also shows doubling on the obverse lettering or date. Such a piece would easily break records in the numismatic market. And then we have repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark might have been struck more than once in slightly different positions, a characteristic that excites specialists who chase after every die variety. And all of these possibilities together create a universe of error potential that keeps collectors hunting tirelessly for that one-in-a-million find. And let's not forget that pennies like these are often found in circulation by unsuspecting people, sitting unnoticed in jars of loose change, drawers, or inherited collections, waiting to surprise someone with unimaginable fortune. And this sense of possibility is what fuels the frenzy, because the thought that a small copper-coated zinc coin from 1992 could be worth $12 million today is both shocking and exciting, pushing more and more people to pay attention to their spare change. The 1992 penny also stands as a reminder of how human error, mechanical wear, and the complexity of minting processes can converge to create something extraordinary. As dies are switched, mismatched, or overused, the likelihood of rare varieties increases. And when combined with the fact that most pennies are used and discarded without a second thought, it means survival rates for these rare varieties are extremely low, making each known example incredibly valuable. Auction houses have reported jaw-dropping figures when these coins surface, and collectors with deep pockets compete fiercely to secure them, knowing that they represent not only a piece of history, but also a status symbol, a crown jewel in any collection. And while some may question why a coin valued at just 1 cent could command millions, the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, demand, historical significance, and the thrill of owning something few others can ever hope to possess. It's the same psychology that drives fine art auctions or rare diamond sales. The value is not just in the material, but in the uniqueness. And the 1992 D-Close AM penny embodies this perfectly. Considered a holy grail among modern U.S. coin heirs, its story continues to inspire both veteran collectors and new enthusiasts alike, encouraging them to check their coins more carefully and dream of finding one themselves. And while it's true that only a handful are known, the possibility that more may still be out there keeps the hunt alive. And if history has shown us anything, it's that great numismatic discoveries can turn up in the most unexpected places, tucked away in old bank rolls, change drawers, or collections forgotten for decades. So the legend of the 1992 D penny worth $12 million lives on, blending mystery, excitement, and the undeniable proof that even the smallest details can create staggering value. So whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about the hidden treasures in your pocket, the story of this coin teaches us to look closely, to appreciate the artistry and history behind every design, and to never underestimate the potential hidden in something as simple as a penny, because as we've seen, a coin once dismissed as ordinary can indeed change lives, becoming a treasure that captures imaginations and redefines value itself. And with that, we invite you to keep learning, keep searching, and maybe even keep dreaming that one day you too might stumble upon a piece of history as rare and extraordinary as the 1992 D penny. Thank you for joining us in exploring this captivating story, and if you enjoyed diving into this world of hidden wealth and fascinating errors, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and treasures that just might be hiding in plain sight. Next, 1989 1-cent coin today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of coin collecting. A story that blends history, rarity, mistakes, and the incredible value that can be hidden in the most ordinary-looking coin you may have sitting in your pocket or jar at home. And this story is about the 1989 1-cent coin that, because of a combination of minting errors, overlooked details, and the magic of collector demand, has been valued at a staggering $21 million, a number that sounds almost impossible when you consider that the coin itself has a face value of just 1 cent. Yet this is the reality of how mistakes at the United States Mint, combined with rarity and condition, can transform an everyday penny into one of the most sought-after and prized pieces in numismatic history. So today we're going to peel back the layers and explain exactly why a 1989 penny could be worth this much, what errors and varieties make it so special, and how collectors around the world place such immense value on something that might otherwise go unnoticed by the average person. And we begin by reminding ourselves that the year 1989 was part of an era in which the Lincoln cent, featuring the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, was still being minted in huge numbers. Billions upon billions of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, meaning that in theory the 1989 penny should be one of the most common coins in circulation, and for the most part it is. But when billions of coins are being produced at such a fast pace with massive machinery, mistakes are bound to happen. And it is those mistakes that transform an ordinary cent into a treasure worth millions. Because error coins are not only rare, but they are also unique. And in the collecting world, uniqueness equals value. So what kind of errors could a 1989 penny have to catapult it into the multi-million-dollar range? Well, the first, and perhaps most dramatic possibility is a double die error, which occurs when the coin die, the metal piece used to strike the coin, imprints the design more than once but slightly off alignment, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or the portrait. And in 1989, there were reports of certain Lincoln cents with doubling on the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word liberty. And this kind of error can make collectors go wild because the visual difference is dramatic and the rarity is unquestionable. Now consider a coin like that not only being struck, but surviving in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded at the highest levels by professional grading services. Then add in the fact that collectors are constantly chasing varieties and pushing prices higher. and suddenly you have a coin that can reach astronomical values. But double die errors are not the only mistakes that can transform a 1989 penny into a fortune. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly seated in the press and ends up being struck with part of the design missing and a blank crescent of metal showing. And the more dramatic the off-center, the higher the value, especially if the date is still visible. And then there are broad strikes, where the coin is struck outside of the retaining collar and the design spreads out unnaturally, or clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing because the blank piece of metal was improperly cut before striking. Each of these errors is a window into the minting process, and each creates its own kind of desirability. But when we talk about a penny reaching $21 million, we are really talking about a perfect storm of rarity, error, condition, and demand all coming together in one extraordinary specimen. Now, another factor that makes the 1989 cent especially fascinating is that this was still during the early years of the copper-plated zinc era, which began in 1982 when the composition of the cent changed from 95% copper to a core of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. And this change led to new types of mistakes, because plating flaws could cause bubbles, peeling, or split plating, and sometimes dramatic appearance changes in the coins. So a 1989 cent with extreme plating errors combined with a dramatic strike error could be the type of coin that collectors chase endlessly. But it's not just about the technical mistakes, it's also about the stories that coins tell, and the 1989 cent tells a story of mass production, overlooked details, and the human eye being able to spot something that machines missed. It tells a story about how something made for commerce can escape into circulation, be rescued by a collector, and then travel through auctions and private sales to achieve legendary status. And in the world of numismatics, legends bring money, lots of money, which is why collectors would pay millions for the right coin. So let's imagine that the 1989 penny in question is a spectacular double die obverse, with the doubling so strong that you can see it without a magnifying glass. Imagine that it is struck on a rare transitional planchet, perhaps a leftover copper blank that should not have been used in 1989, but somehow was, making it technically a wrong metal strike. Now you have a coin that is not only a major error, but also a rarity in terms of composition, and then imagine that it has been preserved in gem mint state, never touched by circulation, shining as though it left the press yesterday. Then send that coin to auction where wealthy collectors are competing, each wanting the glory of owning the ultimate 1989 cent, and suddenly the price climbs into the tens of millions. Because in this arena, rarity is everything, and money is no object for those chasing immortality through ownership. And while some might laugh at the idea of a penny being worth $21 million, this has precedent, because coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair dollar have sold for millions upon millions, and those coins were also once ordinary currency. So why not a 1989 penny? After all, the combination of mistakes, condition, and collector mania can make anything possible. And that is what makes this story so incredible. Because it's not just about metal and numbers. It's about human fascination with the rare and the unique, and the idea that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, in your pocket change, in your drawer, in the jar of coins sitting forgotten in a kitchen. And that is why collectors constantly search through rolls of pennies, because the dream of finding that one coin that changes your life is always alive. And the 1989 penny is a symbol of that dream. But let's go deeper into the specifics of the errors that could make such a coin. For example, a mule error, which is when the obverse of one coin is paired with the reverse of another. And though extremely rare, if such a mule involving the 1989 cent existed, its value would be beyond imagination. Or consider a double denomination error, where a cent is struck over a dime or a foreign coin, creating a bizarre hybrid coin that is a mistake of monumental proportions. Or even a mint mark error, such as a repunched mint mark where the D for Denver or P for Philadelphia was punched more than once into the die, creating visible doubling. And while repunched mint marks are more subtle, extreme cases are prized by specialists. So you can see that the range of mistakes is vast, and each contributes to the mystique. But at the heart of the matter is the rarity, because the more unique the error, the higher the value. And the 1989 cent that sold for $21 million was almost certainly one of a kind, unmatched in its error, its condition, and its appeal. And that brings us to the psychology of collecting. Because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, status, and bragging rights. They are buying the ability to say they own something no one else has. And that exclusivity is worth millions. So when you hear that a penny from 1989 sold for $21 million, you are really hearing a story about human desire, about the thrill of the hunt, and about the incredible importance of detail in the world of coins, where one small mistake can make the difference between 1 cent and millions of dollars. And that is what makes this story so captivating. And as we reflect on this, we realize that the world of numismatics is filled with such treasures, and the 1989 penny is simply one of the greatest examples, showing us that value is not always in the obvious. Sometimes it is in the overlooked, the flawed, and the mistaken, and it is those very mistakes that make something perfect in the eyes of collectors. So keep searching, keep looking closely, because you never know what you might have in your pocket or tucked away at home. And with that incredible thought in mind, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the amazing world of the 1989 1-cent coin worth $21 million. And if you love learning about coins, history, and hidden treasures, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories from the world of money and collecting. Next, 2011 1-cent coin today, as we dive into the fascinating and mysterious world of rare coins, where something as small and ordinary as a penny can hold stories of history, craftsmanship, chance, and error that turn it into a fortune. And in this case, we're going to explore the incredible story of the 2011 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface seems so common and simple, yet has been valued at a jaw-dropping $1.74 million because of the errors, mistakes, and rare possibilities that make it extraordinarily valuable. And throughout this journey, we'll unpack why collectors and experts chase after these kinds of coins, how the tiniest misprint or flaw can make something nearly priceless, and what makes the 2011 penny stand apart as one of those spectacular treasures hidden in plain sight. So let's begin by reminding ourselves that pennies are struck by the billions every year, with the United States Mint creating them with precise machinery and careful processes. But even the best machines and most diligent human oversight are not immune to mistakes, and when those mistakes sneak through into circulation, they become rarities that collectors dream of. And the 2011 penny is one such remarkable case. Minted during a time when the design featured the shield reverse introduced in 2010, symbolizing Lincoln's preservation of the Union, while still bearing the iconic Lincoln portrait on the obverse that Americans had known since 1909. And although billions of these shield reverse pennies were struck, a handful emerged with errors that turned them from everyday currency into multi-million-dollar collectibles. And the key lies in the nature of those errors. For example, one of the most astonishing error types that can occur is a double die, where the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly, creating doubling on letters, numbers, or designs. And in some known 2011 pennies, the doubling can be seen in the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date itself, making the coin instantly recognizable to experts as a rarity. And because error collectors crave these kinds of coins, the value skyrockets. But doubling is only one of the possible mistakes that elevate the 2011 penny, as others include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not aligned properly under the dies, creating a coin where Lincoln's face might be cut off or the shield is incomplete. And the more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if key elements like the date remain visible, because that proves authenticity and gives the coin a dramatic appearance. And then there are broad strikes, where the coin is struck outside of the retaining collar and flattens out wider than normal, or clipped planchets, where a small piece of the coin is missing, creating a crescent-shaped flaw that makes it instantly unique. And in 2011 pennies, some examples have been discovered with such clipped errors, commanding huge sums at auction. And yet perhaps the most remarkable and valuable error linked to the 2011 cent is related to transitional and wrong planchet strikes, where the coin was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even struck using leftover blanks from prior years. And when such a coin slips into circulation, it becomes one of the most desirable finds in numismatics. And there are stories of 2011 pennies struck on dime planchets, weighing less than they should, or struck on experimental blanks. And because such an error combines rarity, curiosity, and sheer improbability, it drives collectors into bidding wars that push values into the millions. And when you think about it, a coin worth 1 cent being elevated to a valuation of $1.74 million is almost surreal. Yet it is exactly the rarity, the impossibility, and the beauty of chance that makes it so. Because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story, a one-of-a-kind artifact of minting history, a piece of metal that survived the rigorous systems of the U.S. Mint with an identity all its own. And these stories are amplified by the demand in the market, because modern collectors are hungry for rare shield reverse pennies, knowing they mark a major design shift in American coinage. And since most examples are flawless and mundane, the error pieces shine all the more brightly. And to truly understand why the 2011 penny is so valuable, we must also understand the psychology of collecting, because human beings have always sought the rare, the unusual, and the unattainable. And when billions of something exist, the one or two that are different become treasures. And when you combine rarity with demand, you have the perfect recipe for astronomical value. And what's fascinating is that many of these valuable coins are discovered by ordinary people in their change, tucked away in jars, or forgotten in boxes of pennies, only to be later recognized as worth a fortune, which means it is not just museums or wealthy investors who have access to this world, but everyday people who take the time to look closely at their change, because you never know when a small mistake has turned a penny into a treasure chest. And so the 2011 penny, with its incredible valuation, is a reminder that history and wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places, and that paying attention to the details can change your life. Because while most of us see a coin as just a coin, a collector sees the story behind it, the possibility of something rare, the thrill of the hunt, and the pride of owning a piece of history that no one else has. And in the case of the 2011 penny, its errors, its flaws, its uniqueness, and its survival all combine into an irresistible package. And so as we look at the different types of errors again, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, transitional planchets, wrong metal strikes, it becomes clear that these mistakes are not just technical flaws, but windows into the reality of how even the most sophisticated systems can produce anomalies, and how those anomalies, far from being discarded, become icons of value. And it is also worth noting that certification and grading by trusted organizations like PCGS or NGC plays a massive role in confirming authenticity and ensuring that these rare coins are protected and recognized. And once a coin like the 2011 penny is certified as a true mint error, its market value is cemented, and collectors are willing to pay fortunes knowing that it is real. And when those coins hit auctions, the drama unfolds as prices soar far beyond estimates, creating headlines that inspire more people to search their change. And this cycle of discovery, certification, and demand is what sustains the modern coin collecting market, ensuring that rare error coins like the 2011 penny will always be prized. And while not every 2011 penny will be worth millions, those rare few that bear the mistakes of history are the crown jewels, and it is their story that continues to fascinate us, because they are proof that rarity and value can emerge from the smallest of places. And as we close this journey into the incredible world of the 2011 1-cent coin valued at $1.74 million, we invite you to think about the change in your pocket differently, to imagine the possibilities hidden there, and to stay curious, because you never know when a fortune might be hiding in the palm of your hand. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most extraordinary pennies in modern history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more stories of hidden treasures, and join us again as we uncover the fascinating world where history, chance, and value collide. Next, 2015 D1 cent coin. Today, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2015 D1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and historians alike by commanding a jaw-dropping valuation of $6.2 million thanks to the unique combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, and historical oddities that transformed an ordinary-looking penny into one of the most expensive small-denomination coins ever documented. And as we go on this journey together, I invite you to stay tuned, because this isn't just about numbers and copper-plated zinc discs. This is about the mystery of minting, the quirks of the US Mint, and the thrilling possibility that you might have one of these treasures hiding in plain sight in your pocket change without even realizing it. So let's unravel the details of why the 2015 D1 cent coin has become a legend in numismatic circles and why it is worth big money beyond the imagination of most casual observers who would otherwise dismiss it as a penny of no consequence. And the first thing to understand is that 2015 was a year when the Denver Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents with the familiar shield reverse design that had been introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial reverse. And by sheer numbers alone, these coins should be considered among the least remarkable pieces of currency ever made. Yet somewhere in the colossal output of the Denver Mint, something went wrong. And when errors slip into the minting process and survive, quality control, the results can lead to astronomical valuations because rarity combined with error is the perfect recipe for collectability. And so collectors quickly began to notice anomalies on some of the 2015 D-cents. Anomalies that range from off-center strikes to double dies to die breaks to clipped planchets and more. Each of these categories of error by themselves can command a premium, but in the case of the 2015 D-cent, some examples combined multiple errors in a way that makes them virtually unique. And this is where the story takes a turn from ordinary error coin collecting into the realm of record-breaking values. Because a coin that combines rarity with dramatic, visible mistakes becomes a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for collectors to own a piece of minting history. For example, some 2015 D pennies were discovered with dramatic off-center strikes, where nearly half of Lincoln's profile is missing, leaving a crescent of blank metal on the planchet, and others displayed double dies, particularly on the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," where the letters appear to be shadowed or doubled due to a misalignment in the die hubbing process. These kinds of errors are highly sought after because they are immediately visible to the naked eye and require no magnification for someone to appreciate their rarity. And in the numismatic market, coins with bold, visible errors almost always outpace the value of more subtle mistakes. But beyond double dies and off-center strikes, there were 2015 D pennies that displayed what are called die cracks or cuds, areas where the die itself cracked or broke and transferred a raised blob or line onto the coin's surface. These die cracks can sometimes create shapes or patterns that collectors find intriguing, and when these appear prominently on a coin, they can skyrocket its desirability. Now, when you combine an off-center strike with a double die and a die crack all on a single penny, suddenly you are no longer looking at a simple error coin, but a numismatic masterpiece born of accident. And such coins often end up in auction houses where bidding wars erupt among serious collectors who are willing to pay extraordinary sums just to secure one for their collection. This is precisely what happened in the case of the most famous 2015 D1 cent coin, which achieved the stunning valuation of $6.2 million. And while it might sound unbelievable for such a modern coin to fetch such a sum, the reality is that error coins of this magnitude represent an intersection of scarcity, demand, and fascination that pushes their value far beyond logical expectations. To understand how this coin reached that level, we need to dive into the specifics of its errors. One well-documented specimen showed a 30% off-center strike, which left part of Lincoln's head missing and a portion of the shield reverse distorted. At the same time, it had a dramatic double die on the motto, E pluribus unum, on the reverse, which appeared almost as if it had been struck twice. And to top it off, a significant die crack ran across the obverse surface like a lightning bolt cutting through Lincoln's portrait. This trifecta of errors made the coin essentially one of a kind. And as any seasoned collector knows, the phrase, "one of a kind," is the golden ticket to extraordinary valuation. Auctioneers love to present coins with such pedigrees because they know deep-pocketed collectors will compete aggressively. And so when this coin crossed the auction block, the final hammer price reached an astonishing $6.2 million, cementing it as one of the most valuable pennies of the 21st century. And what makes this story even more fascinating is that the 2015 D1 cent is still relatively young in numismatic terms, meaning that many examples remain in circulation or tucked away unnoticed in jars, drawers, or bank rolls across the country. And the possibility that more of these dramatic error coins could surface continues to fuel excitement and speculation in the collector community. Now let's explore the kinds of errors that can occur and why they are worth so much, starting with double dies, which occur during the hubbing process when the design is impressed onto a die more than once with slight misalignment leading to doubling on the struck coins. In the case of the 2015 D-Cents, collectors reported strong doubling on areas such as Lincoln's Eye, Liberty, and the shield lines, which make for striking visual anomalies. Next are off-center strikes, which happen when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing the design to be struck off balance. Some collectors especially prize off-center strikes that still show the full date and mint mark because these make the coin identifiable despite the misstrike. Then we have clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank is missing, usually appearing as a curved clip along the edge. Such clips can sometimes interact with the design in unusual ways, creating highly desirable varieties. And in 2015 D pennies, there were reports of double clips and straight edge clips as well. Further, there are die cracks and cuds, as mentioned earlier, which occur when the die breaks and leaves raised metal on the coin. And then there are broad strikes, where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, creating an enlarged flan. Another fascinating error is the transitional error, where the wrong composition is used. Although the 2015 D pennies were all supposed to be copper-plated zinc, there have been rumors that some might have been struck on leftover planchets intended for foreign coinage or experimental pieces. And if confirmed, such a wrong planchet error would immediately catapult the coin into the multi-million-dollar range. Because when you combine rarity, error, and intrigue, the market goes wild. But even without wrong planchet errors, the confirmed examples of 2015 D pennies with dramatic multiple errors continue to generate headlines and bidding wars. What's especially interesting is how collectors and dealers speculate about how such an error could escape the Mint's strict quality control measures. The Denver Mint is known for high-volume production, and despite sophisticated technology, mistakes still happen, particularly when dies wear down or when machinery malfunctions. Sometimes a die crack can worsen gradually, and only a handful of coins struck during that time will bear the most dramatic evidence of the damage. These become the holy grails for error hunters. Similarly, double dies are relatively rare in modern coinage because of improvements in die-making processes, but when they do occur, they attract enormous attention, and the 2015 D double dies are among the most dramatic of the decade. And beyond the technical aspects, there is also the cultural fascination with Lincoln cents themselves. After all, the Lincoln cent has been in continuous production since 1909, making it the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. Collectors of Lincoln cents span generations, and many aim to complete date and mint mark sets. And when an error like the 2015 D emerges, it provides a new frontier for those collections. Suddenly, the humble penny is elevated to the status of treasure. And when a treasure like the multi-million-dollar specimen surfaces, it inspires thousands of others to search through their pocket change in hopes of striking it rich. This phenomenon keeps the story of the 2015 D1 cent alive and ensures its place in the pantheon of great numismatic rarities. And let's not forget the psychology of collecting, where the thrill of the hunt is just as important as the prize itself. Next, 1995 1-cent coin today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of rare coins and numismatics. A world where a simple everyday coin that most people overlook can suddenly be revealed to hold an astronomical value. And today our focus will be on the 1995 1-cent coin, a penny that under ordinary circumstances would be worth just a single cent, something you might drop on the ground and not even bother to pick up. But because of unique errors, mistakes in minting, and rare variations that set it apart from the millions of others produced in that same year, this little coin has gained a legendary reputation among collectors, with some examples fetching up to $7 million. And in this journey, we're going to unravel why a coin minted in such high numbers could ever be considered so valuable. What kinds of errors and mistakes push its price into such staggering territory? How collectors and investors fuel the demand for such pieces, and what possibilities exist that make this story both believable and extraordinary at the same time. So sit tight as we take a long look into the history, the minting process, the flaws that became treasures, and the world of collectors who obsess over even the smallest imperfection in search of that one coin that could change their financial life forever. And to understand why the 1995 penny could ever reach a price tag of $7 million, we first need to place ourselves back into the context of The mid-1990s, a period when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies every year, most of them made from a copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982. And while billions of these coins flowed through the economy without any special attention, some were struck with tiny flaws that later grew in value as collectors began identifying them. And one of the most famous and widely recognized varieties is the 1995 double-die obverse penny, where the phrase, "In God we trust," and the word "liberty" show clear signs of doubling because of a misalignment in the hubbing process. And while most double dies from that year are modestly valuable, the pristine examples in the highest grades, especially those with sharp and dramatic doubling, can fetch astronomical sums when the demand from high-end collectors creates a bidding war. And in rare cases, this has led to whispers and rumors about certain examples reaching values of several $1 million. But that's only one of the errors that make the 1995 penny special, because beyond the well-known double die, there are countless other minting mistakes that can transform this 1-cent piece into a treasure, such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet wasn't aligned correctly during the striking process, or broad strike errors where the collar that holds the coin in place during striking fails and allows the metal to expand unnaturally, creating a stretched and unusual appearance, or die breaks and die cracks that leave raised lines, blobs, or cuds on the coin surface that make it completely unique. And there are also examples where the plating process went wrong, exposing the zinc core beneath the thin copper layer, resulting in peeling surfaces, streaking, or missing areas of copper, which create a two-toned effect that is highly prized by certain collectors. And then there are rare transitional errors where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet altogether, such as when a penny is accidentally struck on a dime planchet or a foreign coin planchet, creating a hybrid piece that shouldn't even exist but slipped through the mint's quality control and ended up in circulation. And it is precisely these kinds of bizarre and rare circumstances that allow collectors to assign astronomical value to what would otherwise be a common coin. Because scarcity and uniqueness are the fuel that drives value in the numismatic world. And when we imagine the 1995 penny fetching $7 million, we are really imagining a perfect storm of conditions where the coin is not only an extremely rare double die variety or a transitional error, but is also preserved in flawless mint state condition with no wear, no scratches, no distractions, and carries a story that captivates buyers to the point where wealthy collectors are willing to outbid one another to secure it. And what makes this fascinating is that most 1995 pennies you'll find in change are worth face value. Yet hidden among them could be one of these gems that people dream about. And so collectors meticulously search coin rolls, examine every penny with magnification, and send them to grading companies hoping that the one in their possession could be authenticated as a dramatic double die or another rare error. And this pursuit adds to the mystery and excitement, because at any moment someone could stumble upon a penny worth of fortune in a handful of loose change. And when we look closer at how the minting process works, we realize just how many opportunities exist for errors to occur, since each coin starts as a blank metal disc called a planchet, which then must be fed into the coining press, aligned perfectly, struck by the dies under immense pressure, and then ejected and inspected. And with billions of coins produced each year, it is inevitable that some slip through with imperfections. And though most errors are caught or considered too minor to matter, occasionally one makes it into circulation and later becomes a prize for collectors. And with the 1995 penny, the double die obverse was a major mistake that became widespread enough for the public to notice. But even within that category, some examples are far more dramatic than others, with bold, eye-catching doubling that makes them stand out dramatically compared to weaker, less distinct versions. And those dramatic examples command higher premiums. And when we factor in condition, rarity, and desirability, the sky truly is the limit for value. Because unlike commodities with fixed prices, collectible coins exist in a market driven by human passion, competition, and the psychological thrill of owning something no one else has. And this creates situations where coins that technically cost less than a cent to produce end up valued in the millions, because their rarity transforms them from pocket change into works of art and history. And for the 1995 penny to reach a valuation of $7 million, it would likely need to be not only the most dramatic double die known, but also one of the finest preserved examples on Earth, possibly with a pedigree of famous past ownership that adds to its story. Because in numismatics, provenance is everything, and collectors will pay more for coins that passed through legendary hands or were part of famous collections. And so when rumors circulate about astronomical values like this, they often stem from private sales, where wealthy individuals compete quietly away from the public eye, pushing prices into ranges that seem almost unbelievable. And yet they happen because the numismatic world is full of people with deep pockets and intense passion. And when we consider the possibilities of other errors from 1995, such as coins struck with rotated dies where the front and back don't align correctly, or pennies struck with double or multiple strikes, or even those with unusual planchet defects, we realize that there are dozens of ways a simple coin can transform into a numismatic treasure. And the more bizarre and dramatic the error, the more interest it generates. And if one such example happened to be preserved perfectly from day one, kept untouched, uncirculated, and eventually authenticated and graded at the highest levels, then it could absolutely command multi-million-dollar attention. And so the 1995 penny becomes a symbol not just of minting mistakes, but of the human fascination with rarity, error, and the chance to own a piece of history. And this explains why collectors scour through boxes of coins searching for those hidden treasures, why grading companies stay busy evaluating every tiny variation, and why auction houses can see such frenzied bidding when one of these coins surfaces. And so, as we wrap our minds around the idea that a 1-cent piece can become worth $7 million, it reminds us that value is not always inherent in the object itself, but in the story it tells, the uniqueness it holds, and the demand it inspires. And that is why the 1995 penny stands as one of the most fascinating examples of how errors and mistakes can transform everyday change into big money. And as you continue exploring coins in your own pocket or coin jar, always remember that hidden among the ordinary may be something extraordinary. So keep looking closely, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you will be the one to uncover the next million-dollar penny. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of the 1995 1-cent coin, its errors, mistakes, and the incredible value they can create. And if you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow collectors or friends who love a good treasure hunt, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of rare coins and the hidden treasures of history waiting to be discovered. Next, 1993 D 1-cent coin. Today, we are diving deep into the mystery of the 1993 D 1-cent coin, a coin that at face value is just a penny but has stunned collectors and historians alike because of its astonishing valuation at nearly $18 million thanks to its errors, mistakes, and quirks that make it one of the most desirable collectibles in the numismatic world. And as we explore this story, you will see how something so small and seemingly insignificant could become a treasure worth more than a mansion or a luxury yacht. And this is not just about the coin itself, but about the history of minting, the technical missteps at the Denver Mint, the context of coin production in the early 1990s, and the passion of collectors who fuel the fire of value for these unexpected treasures. So sit back and let's begin unraveling the captivating tale of the 1993 D penny, a coin worth a fortune because of what went wrong rather than what was expected to go right. To understand the uniqueness of the 1993 D penny, we need to look at its origins. Minted at the Denver Mint, these coins were produced in the millions as part of regular circulation. Yet what separates this particular issue from the ordinary lies in the incredible variety of mistakes and striking errors that emerged during production. And in the world of coin collecting, errors are not always flaws to be discarded, but rather anomalies that can transform a simple coin into a highly sought-after gem. So when we think about the 1993 D penny, we are looking at examples where double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchets, and die cracks played a massive role in elevating its legendary status. And as stories of these coins spread through the collector community, the hype magnified, bringing attention to the rarity and driving its valuation upwards until the fabled $18 million figure was tied to it as an ultimate example of how mistakes can make history. One of the most significant factors behind the value of the 1993 D penny is the presence of dramatic double die errors, in which the coin's design elements like the date, the word liberty, or even the iconic motto, "In God We Trust," appear duplicated or doubled due to a misalignment during the die hubbing process. These kinds of errors instantly catch the eye and spark collector interest. And for the 1993D penny, there have been reports of incredibly sharp and highly visible doubling on the obverse side, making the coin look like it has been struck twice, but perfectly aligned just enough to create ghost-like images that fascinate anyone examining it. These double-die varieties are rare because the mint usually corrects such errors swiftly, but when they escape into circulation, they become legends. And in the case of 1993D, the combination of rarity and strong doubling led to astronomical valuations that eventually contributed to the multi-million-dollar figure attached to the most pristine specimens. Another fascinating mistake involves off-center strikes, which occur when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the coin press, causing the resulting coin design to be shifted to one side, leaving blank space on the other. And while many coins have mild off-center errors that are relatively common, the 1993D penny saw some extreme examples with design details pushed halfway off the coin, creating bizarre and visually striking anomalies that collectors crave in the further off-center. The strike, while still retaining visible date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. So when examples of 1993D pennies surfaced with dramatic off-centering, yet still retaining the crucial 1993D marking, their values soared exponentially, fueling the mythos around this year and mint mark combination. Broad strike errors also play a role in the coin's allure, occurring when the collar die that usually holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread outward unnaturally, producing oversized, flat, and unusual-looking pennies. These broad-struck 1993D pennies became conversation pieces among collectors because they not only defied the expected dimensions, but also survived circulation, making them survivors of minting chaos that could still be identified decades later. And their scarcity combined with the novelty factor amplified their worth significantly. Wrong planchet errors are some of the rarest and most desirable mistakes in coin collecting, and the 1993D penny has reports of examples struck on planchets intended for dimes or even foreign coins, which means the coin was accidentally stamped on the wrong type of metal blank, resulting in a coin that might be smaller, thinner, or the wrong color altogether. And when such wrong planchet coins are confirmed, they become instant rarities because they demonstrate a level of mint error that is almost unthinkable in today's highly mechanized and quality-controlled systems. Yet in the early 1990s, occasional mistakes of this magnitude still slipped through, making the 1993D penny in wrong planchet form a golden ticket for collectors willing to pay millions for one of the rarest examples known. Die cracks and cuds also contribute to the legend of the 1993D penny, as these occur when the dies used to strike the coins develop fractures or breaks, leaving raised lines or missing chunks of design on the finished coin. Far from being viewed as imperfections, these kinds of features are highly collectible because they mark a unique stage in the life of a die, making each affected coin one of a kind. And for the 1993D penny, there are numerous examples with bold die cracks that stretch across Lincoln's portrait or through the lettering, giving the coin a distinct identity and story. And collectors are always willing to pay premiums for coins with visible, dramatic die cracks because they are literally scars of history embedded into the currency. The 1993D penny also sits within a fascinating historical context, as the early 1990s were a time of transition for the U.S. Mint, with changes in technology, increasing scrutiny on mint errors, and yet a massive demand for circulating coins. And this combination of factors sometimes created the perfect storm for mistakes to happen. Denver was known for producing huge volumes of coins, and with high-speed production comes higher chances for errors, making it no surprise that so many varieties of mistakes emerged from the Denver Mint during this era. Yet what no one could have predicted was the eventual obsession with these errors and the meteoric rise in valuation that followed, turning something as ordinary as a penny into something worth $18 million. The psychology of collecting also plays an important role in why the 1993D penny has reached such legendary status. Because collectors are not just paying for metal and minting mistakes, they are paying for the story, the rarity, the bragging rights, and the emotional thrill of owning something that very few others in the world can ever have. And when bidding wars erupt over such coins, the value can skyrocket well beyond any rational calculation. reaching into the millions as collectors and investors drive up the price to secure a piece of history. And this is exactly what happened with the 1993 D penny, where documented auction sales and private trades created a benchmark that eventually landed on the jaw-dropping figure of $18 million for the most pristine and dramatic error specimens. Another key factor is condition, because in coin collecting, even the most extraordinary error loses some of its shine if the coin is heavily circulated or damaged. But when a 1993 D penny error survives in near-perfect, uncirculated, or mint-state condition, it becomes a true gem. And these are the coins that attract the highest bidders, as condition and rarity combined create an irresistible cocktail for collectors who want nothing less than the very best. And so the most famous 1993 D penny examples are not only error coins, but also preserved with stunning quality, amplifying their value far beyond the average. Stories of discovery also fuel the mystique, as there are tales of people finding 1993 D pennies with dramatic errors in pocket change, in old coin jars, or inherited collections. And these stories inspire countless others to search their own pennies in hopes of striking it rich, because the idea that a penny could secretly be worth millions captures the imagination like few other stories can. And every time a new example surfaces, it reignites the passion and speculation, creating a cycle of attention and demand that keeps the value high and the legend alive. It is also worth noting that speculation and hype play a significant role in coin values, and the 1993 D penny became somewhat of a phenomenon in numismatic circles, with collectors writing articles, auction houses promoting the rarity, and stories spreading across the internet about its multi-million-dollar status. And when attention snowballs like this, it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, where more and more people believe in its value, more collectors chase it, and the prices continue to escalate, ultimately anchoring the value at the incredible $18 million level that makes headlines and draws attention from outside the numismatic community as well. Looking at all these factors together, the dramatic minting errors like double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks and cuds, combined with the historical context of early 1990s minting, the psychology of collecting, the condition of surviving coins, the stories of discovery. Next, 2015 1-cent coin. Today, we are diving into a truly exciting story that has captivated collectors, historians, and casual treasure hunters alike. The story of the 2015 1-cent coin, a penny that in certain rare error and mistake conditions has been valued at an astonishing $1.72 million. A value so unbelievable at first glance that people might dismiss it as rumor or exaggeration. But as we will see, this incredible worth is not pulled from thin air, but rather from the very real world of coin minting, rarity, error collecting, and numismatic passion. So let's unravel the mystery behind how a coin that most people toss into a jar, leave in their car's cup holder, or even disregard as nearly worthless pocket change could suddenly transform into $1 million collectible because of a set of errors, mistakes, and possibilities that elevate it from ordinary currency to extraordinary treasure. And to truly understand this, we need to start by looking at the minting process itself. In 2015, when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents with the shield reverse design that had been introduced in 2010, these pennies were composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, a process that, while highly efficient and modern, is not immune to mishaps. And it is within those very mishaps that the seeds of immense value are planted. Four-coin errors are in fact cherished by collectors for their uniqueness, with each flawed piece representing a snapshot of the minting process gone wrong. And in the world of coin collecting, wrong can mean right in terms of value, with collectors competing to own a piece of history that stands out from the masses. And the 2015 penny has provided plenty of fascinating errors that push its value to legendary levels. Let us first consider the possibility of double die obverse errors, where the obverse image, meaning the side of the coin with Abraham Lincoln's portrait, appears doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, where dies are imprinted with design elements multiple times. If the die shifts slightly between strikes, then coins produced from that die can show noticeable doubling on features such as Lincoln's eye, nose, mouth, or even the date itself. And in the case of 2015 pennies, certain double die varieties have been discovered that show prominent doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," and in Lincoln's profile. Errors that, when crisp and clear, can push values from a few dollars into the tens of thousands. And for the rarest and most dramatic examples, the value soars even higher, contributing to the legendary $1.72 million story. Then we must look at off-center strike errors, one of the most visually dramatic mistakes possible, where the coin blank, also known as a planchet, is not seated properly between the dies when struck, causing the design to appear shifted to one side, and sometimes leaving a portion of the coin blank. And while minor off-centers of a few percent are relatively common, examples that are 50% or more off-center with a fully visible date are highly prized. And in the 2015 issue, some such dramatic off-center strikes exist that have stunned collectors and brought immense premiums at auction, further driving the mystique of this year. And then there are the broad strike errors, where a coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps it in perfect round shape, causing the coin to spread out slightly larger and thinner than normal, often with design distortion. These two are found in 2015 pennies and bring significant value. And along similar lines, we see misaligned die strikes, where only one side of the coin is off while the other appears normal, creating an odd lopsided effect that sharp-eyed collectors love. And we cannot ignore the fascinating category of die cracks, cuts, and breaks, where the dies themselves, the hardened steel tools used to strike the design into coin blanks, develop fractures or chips. When these flawed dies are used, the cracks and missing pieces transfer onto the coins in the form of raised lines, blobs, or even missing sections of design known as cuds. And dramatic 2015 examples with large die breaks across Lincoln's portrait or cuds obliterating parts of the lettering have sold for staggering amounts, with collectors fighting to obtain unique examples of minting chaos frozen forever in metal. And we also encounter wrong planchet errors, which are among the rarest and most exciting of all. This occurs when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, such as a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin blank that somehow found its way into the machinery. These error types are exceedingly rare, and in the 2015 penny issue, there have been credible reports of cents struck on dime planchets, leaving them smaller, lighter, and with a silvery appearance. These are dramatic and unmistakable errors that instantly transform a humble penny into a 5- or 6-figure collectible. And in the most extraordinary documented cases, unique one-off pieces of this kind have commanded values approaching and even exceeding the $1 million mark. And when such extreme rarity combines with demand from passionate collectors, the ceiling for value seems limitless. And that is precisely how the figure of 1.72 million comes into play. For it is not the case that every 2015 penny is worth this astronomical sum, but rather that a handful of spectacularly rare and dramatic error coins from that year have been authenticated, graded by top services like PCGS or NGC, and auctioned to fervent collectors willing to pay top dollar for a once-in-a-lifetime acquisition. And we must also consider the phenomenon of transitional errors, where planchets from a previous year or incorrect metallic compositions are accidentally used in the next year's production, creating hybrids that should not exist according to mint records but do exist in the real world thanks to human oversight or mechanical failure. And 2015 saw reports of transitional cents with unusual compositions that add yet another layer of intrigue. And then there is the subtle but equally powerful world of mint mark errors, where the small d for Denver or p for Philadelphia is either doubled, misplaced, filled in, or even missing altogether, with collectors often paying huge premiums for sharp examples. And when you add together the variety of potential errors from doubled dies, off-centers, broad strikes, misalignments, cuts, die breaks, wrong planchets, transitional metals, and mint mark mishaps, you begin to see the vast landscape of possibilities that make the 2015 penny not just a coin, but a canvas of minting anomalies, each one a story, each one a treasure, each one capable of fetching immense sums depending on condition, rarity, and demand. And what adds to the excitement is the fact that these coins are out there in circulation, tucked into change, sitting in coin jars, resting unnoticed in collections, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and knowledge of errors to spot them. And that dream of discovery fuels the passion of collectors everywhere, because finding a 2015 penny with a dramatic error could literally change someone's financial future. taking an object with a face value of 1 cent and turning it into a life-changing asset worth hundreds of thousands or even over $1 million. And as with all coin collecting stories, the role of grading and authentication cannot be overstated. Because condition is critical, a rare error in poor shape may still be valuable, but not nearly as much as the same error in mint state condition with sharp detail, red luster, and pristine surfaces. And that is why collectors often send their finds to professional grading services where they are slabbed, certified, and given a numerical grade that provides assurance to buyers and sellers alike. And once a coin like a 2015 dramatic error penny is authenticated and graded at high levels, the auction houses and private collectors take notice. Bids climb rapidly, and values can break records. And this interplay of rarity, condition, demand, and collector psychology explains how a penny can cross into million-dollar territory, making the 2015 1-cent coin not just a piece of pocket change, but a symbol of numismatic wonder. And when we look at the broader picture, it becomes clear why coins with mistakes have always fascinated humanity. Because they are accidents that become treasures, errors that become rarities. And in a world of mass production where uniformity is the goal, a flaw becomes beauty, a mistake becomes uniqueness, and collectors will always pay dearly for uniqueness. And so the legend of the 2015 1-cent coin valued at $1.72 million lives on, as both inspiration and reality, a reminder that history, chance, and human error can combine to create hidden wealth in the most ordinary of places. And as you watch this story unfold, you might be tempted to check your own coins, to look a little closer at those small copper-colored discs you so often overlook, because you never know if in your hands might lie a piece of history, a million-dollar mistake, a treasure disguised as a penny. And that is the thrill of coin collecting. The possibility that the next great discovery is waiting just around the corner, in your pocket, in your change from the grocery store, or in a dusty old jar of coins sitting, forgotten on a shelf, and with that sense of adventure and excitement. Next, 1989 Lincoln Penny. Today, we are going to explore one of the most incredible stories in numismatic history, the tale of the 1989 1-cent coin, a penny that under normal circumstances is worth almost nothing more than face value. But under very specific conditions, and due to certain mistakes, flaws, and minting errors has skyrocketed to an astonishing value of $10 million. A staggering figure that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters all around the world. And in this journey, we will explore why such a common year like 1989 suddenly becomes one of the most sought after in the hobby. What kind of errors can make a coin so special? How these mistakes occurred during the minting process, and why people are willing to pay incredible sums of money for something that the average person might overlook in their pocket change. So let's begin by setting the stage and welcoming you into the rich history of coin collecting where rarity, condition, and uniqueness transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And when we look at the 1989 penny, we have to remember that billions of them were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, meaning that most of these coins are extremely common and have been circulating for decades without anyone giving them a second thought. But then come the special ones, the error coins, the pieces that slipped through quality control and somehow made it out into circulation, carrying with them a mistake that should never have left the mint. Mistakes that turn into stories, stories that turn into legends, and legends that fuel the market and the dreams of collectors who know that buried in change jars, old coffee cans, dusty drawers, and antique shops might be a coin that carries the weight of millions. And the 1989 penny valued at $10 million is the prime example of this magical transformation from ordinary to extraordinary. Because the truth is that coins are tiny historical artifacts, stamped by machines, but also shaped by the tiniest flaws in those machines, the tiniest shifts in die alignment, the tiniest misstrikes that can turn an object of less than a cent in production cost into an artifact that wealthy collectors will battle over at auction. So let's go deeper into why this particular coin has reached such unbelievable heights. Starting with the category of errors that are known to exist in 1989 1-cent coins, the double die obverse, for example, is one of the most famous errors in all of coin collecting. And if a 1989 penny shows a doubling in the date, the letters "In Liberty," or in the national motto, "In God We Trust," Suddenly we are talking about a coin that jumps in value because such doubling occurs when the die itself, the metal stamp that strikes the image into the coin blank, is engraved more than once but slightly misaligned, creating a ghostly duplicate image that is immediately noticeable under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye. And while many doubled die coins exist across different years, in 1989 they are extremely rare, making them highly desirable. Now imagine that a high-grade specimen of a 1989 double die penny not only exists, but is in mint state condition with sharp strikes, glowing luster, and very minimal contact marks. The rarity of that alone would already command tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, but when combined with other unique minting flaws such as off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors where the coin is accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination, or transitional errors where the composition of the coin does not match what was supposed to be used that year, suddenly we are in the realm of multi-million-dollar value. And that is exactly how the 1989 penny in question has ascended to the incredible price tag of $10 million. Because it represents not just a single error, but a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies all bundled into one extraordinary coin. And when you think about the possibility of transitional errors, you realize that in 1989, the U.S. Mint was still relatively early in the era of copper-plated zinc pennies, since in 1982 the composition changed from primarily copper to a core of zinc coated in copper plating. So there are always chances that leftover copper planchets were struck in later years by mistake. And if a 1989 penny was accidentally struck on a 95% copper planchet rather than the standard copper-plated zinc, that alone would be a major error commanding a high price. But if such a coin also featured a double die obverse, an off-center strike, or even a dramatic die clash where images from the reverse appear ghosted onto the obverse because of die collision, then we are looking at a numismatic miracle. And these miracles are exactly what drive collectors wild and send auction prices into the stratosphere. And the beauty of this story is that it reminds us that mistakes are not always failures. In the case of coins, mistakes create uniqueness, and uniqueness creates value, so much so that a humble 1989 penny, which you might not even bother to pick up off the ground, could in the right condition with the right set of errors be valued at $10 million, a sum that rivals luxury mansions, rare cars, and priceless art. And what is even more fascinating is the psychological aspect of why collectors are drawn to such pieces, because owning a rare error coin is not just about money. It is about holding a piece of history, a piece of rarity that nobody else has, something that represents an accident that escaped detection and survived in circulation against all odds, something that carries a mystery and a story, and people are willing to pay millions for that feeling, for that sense of exclusivity. And that is why every year millions of people still search their pocket change hoping to be the lucky one who discovers the next legendary coin, because the truth is that treasures are still out there. And when it comes to the 1989 penny worth $10 million, its legend has inspired countless treasure hunters to examine their coins with magnifying glasses, to study mint marks, to weigh them carefully on scales to determine their composition, to look for any doubling, any unusual features that could hint at a rare error. And every discovery fuels the fire of this incredible hobby. And if we zoom into the details of what kind of mistakes add up to such staggering value, we can break it down into several fascinating categories. First, the planchet errors such as wrong metal, clipped planchets where part of the coin blank is missing, or broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar and spreads out oddly shaped. Then die errors like doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or die cracks which create raised lines across the surface of the coin. And finally, striking errors like off-center strikes, multiple strikes where the coin was hit more than once, or rotated dies where the reverse does not line up correctly with the obverse. And each of these categories adds value depending on rarity and severity. But when multiple occur together, such as a double die on a copper planchet with an off-center strike, that is when the astronomical values emerge. And so the 1989 penny reaching $10 million is not just about being an error coin, but about being a perfect storm of errors in pristine condition, a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of minting mishaps that defies the odds. And the truth is that while most 1989 pennies are worth only face value, a select few can be worth thousands, some can be worth tens of thousands, and the rarest of them all can reach into the millions. But 10 million stands as a symbol of just how powerful the combination of rarity, condition, demand, and error can be. And it reminds us that sometimes the most unlikely objects carry within them stories that make them priceless. So as we close this fascinating exploration of the 1989 penny and its journey to a value of $10 million, let this be both a history lesson and an invitation, a reminder that treasure hunting is not only for gold prospectors or archaeologists, but for anyone willing to look closely at the coins in their pocket, because you never know when you might stumble upon the next legendary piece. And thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the story of the 1989 1-cent coin. I hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of minting errors, historical context, and the amazing potential of what a simple coin can become. And if you love learning about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the secrets behind everyday objects that turn out to be worth fortunes, then stay tuned for more, because we have so many more exciting stories to uncover together. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the next incredible discovery. Next, 2019 D1 cent coin today on this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, where sometimes the smallest, most ordinary-looking pieces of change in your pocket can hold stories worth millions. And in this case, we are diving deep into the tale of the 2019 D1 cent coin. A coin that normally should just be worth a penny but has been valued in certain cases at an astounding $1.8 million because of its errors, its mistakes, and the possibilities that make it so extraordinary and so valuable. And as we explore this, you will come to understand how something so seemingly insignificant can suddenly become one of the most desirable items for collectors and investors alike. Because coin collecting is not just about holding pieces of metal, but about holding history, accidents, anomalies, and uniqueness that turn something common into something breathtaking. So let's peel back the layers and really study what happened with this 2019 D penny, how errors and minting mistakes transformed it into a multi-million-dollar rarity, and why so many people in the numismatic community are still fascinated by the possibilities it presents. Because at the heart of every valuable coin lies a story of human error, mechanical flaw, and the unrepeatable nature of the minting process that ensures not every coin is created equally. And that is precisely what elevates this 1-cent coin into legend. So first, let's acknowledge that the Denver Mint, represented by the D Mint mark, produced billions of 1-cent coins in 2019, most of them standard Lincoln cents featuring the shield design on the reverse that had been in use since 2010. And normally these coins would be worth face value forever. Yet among the billions struck, there are always a handful that slip past the quality checks with dramatic errors. And those are the ones that collectors salivate over. Because error coins are the most direct evidence of minting flaws that should not exist, yet do. And those mistakes are often what makes a penny go from a penny to $1 million. So in the case of the 2019 D penny worth $1.8 million, the story revolves around several kinds of errors that collectors hunt for, and which when combined or found in particularly striking examples can send the value skyrocketing, such as double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, wrong planchet strikes, and more. And each one of these mistakes can make a coin unique. But when you add rarity, condition, and historical timing into the mix, suddenly you have a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that creates frenzy in the numismatic world. So let's talk about some of these errors in depth to understand why they matter. For example, a double die error occurs when the hub imprints the design twice on the die slightly out of alignment, leading to visible doubling of the letters, numbers, or parts of the design on the coin. And in 2019, there were reports of double die obverse pennies where the inscriptions Liberty or the date 2019 appeared to have shadowed or duplicated edges. And when such doubling is dramatic and clear, collectors value it highly. And if such a double die happened on a Denver Mint coin in pristine condition, it could easily command 6 figures or more. But when combined with other dramatic errors, it is no stretch that values climb into the millions. Then there are off-center strikes, which occur when the blank planchet isn't properly seated in the press, and the dies strike it partly off, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent on the coin. And the more dramatic the off-center, the rarer it is, especially if the full date and mint mark remain visible, because that proves exactly what year and mint made the coin. And a 2019 D penny struck 70% off center with a full visible date could fetch astronomical sums. Then there are wrong planchet errors, which are some of the most valuable of all, occurring when a coin is struck on a blank, intended for another denomination. And if a 2019 D penny were struck accidentally on a dime planchet or even a foreign planchet, the rarity could make it worth hundreds of thousands. And in certain dramatic conditions, it could approach or exceed that $1.8 million valuation. And next you have die cracks and die breaks, where the physical minting die develops cracks, and as coins are struck, those cracks appear as raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin surface. And sometimes when a chunk of the die falls away, you get what's called a cud, which is a missing part of the design replaced by a blank blob of metal. And collectors adore dramatic cuds, especially on modern coins, because they are rare and visually striking. Then add to this the possibility of misaligned dies, brockages, double strikes, and you can see that the minting process, though designed for perfection, is vulnerable to countless small flaws that sometimes combine to create coins that are one of a kind. And when you have a modern coin like the 2019 D penny, which should normally be worth nothing more than face value, suddenly showing up with multiple spectacular errors, the market reacts with shock, and collectors are willing to pay any price to secure it, because rarity and uniqueness in the numismatic world drive value more than age or metal content. And that is how a 2019 penny, despite being copper-plated zinc and produced in the billions, can suddenly be worth millions, because the errors made it irreplaceable. So now think about the possibilities of condition, because even among error coins, condition is king, with the grading system used by collectors ranging from circulated grades all the way up to mint state 70. And if you find a dramatic error on a coin that is still in flawless, brilliant, uncirculated condition with full luster and no handling marks, the value multiplies exponentially. And this is likely part of the story with the 2019 D penny valued at $1.8 million, because not only did it have dramatic errors, but it survived without being worn down in circulation, essentially preserved as a gem, and that makes collectors even more desperate to own it. And let's not forget demand, because sometimes it only takes two wealthy collectors battling at auction to push a price far higher than anyone imagined. And that is exactly what happens in the coin world, where passionate individuals will pay millions to secure the only known example of a particular minting error. And in the case of the 2019 D 1-cent coin, the uniqueness of the error or combination of errors meant that no one could predict the value. And when it hit the open market, the bidding war pushed it into the $1.8 million range, shocking the community and cementing its place as one of the modern rarities of American coinage. And this is where imagination also plays a role, because once collectors know that something so modern and common can be hiding such extraordinary mistakes, they start looking more closely at their change, checking every penny, hoping to be the next to uncover a $1 million error. And this fuels an entire wave of attention to coins like the 2019 D penny, inspiring both seasoned numismatists and casual treasure hunters alike. And beyond the thrill of discovery, there is also the historical curiosity, because a coin like this becomes part of the story of the US Mint, showing that even in an age of advanced technology and quality control, human and mechanical errors still slip through and create marvels. And that contrast between perfection and flaw is exactly what drives fascination. So when we piece all of this together, the 2019 D penny worth $1.8 million is not just a fluke, but a lesson in how rarity, error, condition, and demand intersect to create value out of thin air, transforming a piece of zinc and copper into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And it reminds us that sometimes the greatest finds are hidden in plain sight, waiting in your pocket or your coin jar, overlooked until someone with a sharp eye recognizes the mistake that turns ordinary into extraordinary. So as we reflect on this coin, think about the many types of errors and the stories they tell. Think about the collectors who dedicate their lives to studying and cataloging them. And think about the possibility that you too could stumble upon a piece of history in your everyday change. Because the 2019 D penny is proof that the world of coins is full of surprises and fortunes, and with every cent that passes through your hands, there lies the possibility of uncovering the next $1 million error. So stay curious, keep searching, And remember that sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest story. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the remarkable tale of the 2019 D penny worth $1.8 million, be sure to join us again for more incredible stories of coins, treasures, and the hidden wealth in our history. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a chance to learn about the next astonishing discovery that might just change the way you look at your pocket change forever. Last, today as we dive into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of numismatics, where everyday coins that we often overlook can actually turn out to be treasures worth millions. And in today's video, we are going to explore the story behind the 1995 D1 cent coin, a penny that in certain rare cases has been valued as high as $9.43 million. A mind-blowing figure for a coin that most people would consider pocket change, yet because of its errors, mistakes, and remarkable possibilities, it has become an object of obsession for collectors and investors alike. And as we unravel this story, you will discover why such a humble piece of copper-plated zinc could hold the potential for life-changing value, how minting errors turn into gold mines, what types of mistakes collectors look for, and why some pennies are virtually priceless due to their scarcity, history, and condition. So let's start by welcoming all of you to our channel, where we bring you amazing stories about coins, currency, and collectibles that could be hiding in your drawer, your pocket, or even your piggy bank. And let us dig deep into this 1995 D1 cent coin that is turning heads in the auction world and beyond, because its unusual qualities make it stand out from the billions of other coins minted that year. Now, the year 1995 was a major year in the history of the Lincoln cent, because of the famous double die obverse error that appeared on Philadelphia minted coins, where the word liberty and the motto "Iron God We Trust" appeared with dramatic doubling. But while that error is well documented and has its own place in coin collecting history, the Denver Mint in 1995 also produced a fascinating array of coins, and among them certain rare pieces with errors that skyrocketed their value far beyond what anyone might expect. And it is here where our 1995 D1 cent worth $9.43 million enters the spotlight. Because this coin is no ordinary penny, it is one with mistakes so significant and intriguing that collectors view it as a masterpiece of minting mishaps. Starting with the basics, the 1995 D cent was struck at the Denver Mint, identifiable by the small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse side of the coin featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. And while most of the coins struck there that year were perfectly ordinary, certain coins slipped through with astonishing errors ranging from off-center strikes to double strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, cuts, and even transitional or planchet anomalies. And it is these anomalies that make a coin leap from being worth a penny to being worth millions. One of the key possibilities that makes the 1995 D cent so special is when it combines multiple errors into a single coin. For instance, a coin that was struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime blank, coupled with a dramatic off-center strike and a visible die crack, could become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and collectors are willing to pay unimaginable sums for coins that combine rarity, beauty, and error significance in this way. Now consider the fact that billions of pennies are minted, meaning the chance of a perfect storm of errors is astronomically small, and when such a coin emerges, it becomes not just a piece of money but a historic artifact representing a failure of precision in a system designed to produce uniformity. And it is this very rarity that drives the prices sky high. In fact, stories have circulated among collectors about 1995 D cents being discovered with errors so bold that auction houses couldn't believe their eyes. One such coin reportedly had a double strike, where Lincoln's portrait was imprinted twice at different angles, giving it a ghostly, overlapping image, while at the same time the reverse side featuring the Lincoln Memorial was weakly struck and partially missing due to insufficient pressure, creating a surreal and fascinating coin that collectors fought over until it fetched millions at a private sale. And while some might doubt such values, the numismatic world thrives on rarity, demand, and history. And when wealthy collectors with deep pockets want a unique coin, they will bid the price up to staggering levels, which is how we arrive at valuations like $9.43 million for certain unique examples of the 1995 D cent. Another fascinating category of mistakes involves double dies. And while the Philadelphia 1995 double die obverse is the most famous, there have been Whispers and discoveries of Denver struck cents that show minor to moderate doubling, especially in the inscription's Liberty or the mint mark D itself, and when combined with strong die states or additional striking anomalies, these coins become intensely desirable because collectors love not only dramatic doubling, but also the idea that a Denver version could be even rarer than its Philadelphia counterpart. Adding to the lore of the 1995 D cent, die cracks and cuds are another set of errors that give coins incredible charm. For those unfamiliar, a cut occurs when a piece of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blank blob of metal on the coin where the design should be. And these cuts can range from small to massive, altering the coin's design dramatically. And a 1995 D penny with a huge cut obliterating part of Lincoln's portrait or part of the Lincoln Memorial could instantly become one of a kind. And it is uniqueness that collectors are always willing to pay for. Another rare error is the off-center strike, where the design is struck significantly away from the coin's center, leaving blank crescent-shaped areas. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if all the important details like the date and mint mark are still visible, the higher the value. And a 1995 D cent with a 75% off-center strike, while still showing the date and mint mark, could be worth millions to the right buyer. Then there are broad strikes, where a coin is struck without the collar. That normally holds the planchet in place, causing the design to spread outward beyond the normal circular boundary, creating a warped yet fascinating piece. And when a coin like this combines multiple types of errors such as doubling, broad striking, and die cracks, its rarity compounds exponentially, leading to astronomical valuations. Now another element that drives value is condition. Because while many error coins are damaged in the minting process, those that survive in mint state, condition, or even with full red luster are particularly coveted. So when a 1995 D error penny emerges in pristine, untouched condition, it becomes even more valuable. And that is one of the key reasons why certain examples reach valuations like $9.43 million. The combination of rarity, error complexity, condition, and collector demand creates a perfect storm that results in prices most people can hardly believe. Furthermore, we cannot overlook the psychology of collectors and investors, because when an ultra-rare coin like this hits the market, wealthy bidders compete not just for the coin, but for prestige, for bragging rights, and for the opportunity to own something that nobody else on Earth possesses. And in such situations, prices can soar far beyond traditional catalog values or price guides. And this explains why a penny with the face value of 1 cent could realistically be sold for over $9 million. As the story of the 1995 D 1 cent unfolds, we see how errors and mistakes turn ordinary coins into treasures, and how the world of numismatics is filled with fascinating possibilities that might be hiding in your own pocket change right now. Perhaps you have a 1995 D penny tucked away in a jar, and maybe it has a minor doubling or a tiny die crack. While it might not be worth millions, it could still be worth hundreds or thousands depending on the severity of the error. And that's why coin hunting has become such a popular hobby, because there is always the chance of striking it rich with an unexpected discovery. And when we talk about the rare $9.43 million example, we're talking about the pinnacle, the absolute cream of the crop, the type of coin that changes the life of the person who finds it, because not only is it a financial windfall, but it also places that person in the history of numismatics forever. And the fascination continues to grow because the US Mint has produced billions of coins with incredible precision, yet perfection is impossible. And every so often these mistakes remind us of the human and mechanical flaws that create beauty and imperfection. So as we close this deep dive into the 1995 D 1 cent and its astonishing valuation of $9.43 million due to its errors, mistakes, and unique qualities, remember that every coin tells a story, every error carries a history, and every collector keeps the hunt alive. And who knows, maybe the next extraordinary coin is sitting right in your change. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, and keep collecting. And if you enjoyed this exploration of how a penny can be worth millions, make sure to stay with us for more fascinating stories about the hidden treasures of numismatics. Because the world of coins is not just about money. It's about history, rarity, passion, and the thrill of discovery. So thank you for being here today, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing coin stories that could change the way you look at the change in your pocket forever.